Hello, and welcome back to the Cracking FAANG YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing a bonus video for the system design series, and we're going to be talking about some extra study resources to help you guys learn systems design. So as you guys know, systems design is a vast ocean of knowledge. There's no way that one video series can tell you all you need to know. There's no way one book is going to give you all the information you need to know. You really need to study multiple sources and mix this in with your in real life experience. Obviously, if some of you guys are college students, university students, then you don't have that real life experience. So you're going to have to really read and take in information from multiple sources to build your foundations because you won't have that real life experience to draw upon. So let's go into some of the resources. These are going to be your best ones when learning systems design. The first one is going to be books. Then you have your online courses, you have your online resources, and then you're going to have YouTube videos. So let's look at some of the best resources within each category. And we're going to start with probably what most would consider the System Design Bible. And this is going to be Designing Data Intensive Applications by Martin Kleppmann. This book is probably single-handedly one of the best resources out there for learning system design and has enough detailed information to carry you almost through your system design interviews. Though, like I said, you should still use other resources because it never hurts to have more information. This book is free online as a PDF, and I'll link this in the description below for you to download and read through free of charge. And it's written in an easy to understand way which is not overly technical, but still goes into enough depth to teach you what you need to know. So, designing data intensive applications is something like 600 pages long, and it's quite a bit of information. If you're new to systems design, don't feel like you need to know and understand everything on every single page. My personal recommendation would be on the first read through to skip over the following chapters, as I personally find they're a bit overkill for newbies and not really useful in most cases. The first chapter you want to skip is going to be chapter 2, Data Models and Query Languages. This isn't really necessary, especially in like an interview context. The third chapter you can skip as well, Storage and Retrieval. It goes into way too much technical detail about how databases actually store information and the data structures behind that. If you're a low-level systems design person, then you're probably going to want to know this, but for most people, knowing B trees and all these sort of things really isn't that necessary. Chapter 4, Encoding and Evolution, not really that important. You don't really need to know about, RPC and all that kind of stuff. It's just not important. You can skim it if you want. Same thing with chapter 9, Consistency and Consensus. You should probably just skim this chapter, mostly focusing on the consistency portion. Consensus is definitely a harder topic and something that you may want to come back to when you're a little bit more intermediate or advanced in systems design. But for beginners, probably knowing about consensus is a bit overkill. Chapter 10, Batch Processing. I would say just know what batch processing is because it can be used sometimes in system design, but you don't need to know the hairy details of Hadoop and how it works internally. Just have a high level idea of what batch processing is and a few of the places you might use it, and that's really all you need to know with batch processing. Chapter 11 as well on stream processing. You should definitely know about message queues because they are used a lot in distributed systems, but the rest of that chapter you can basically skim if you're interested in it, but just focus on the message queues for the first few read-throughs. Chapter 12, Future of Data Systems. This is just kind of like, I don't know, they're just talking about what we might see in the future, not really relevant for an interview setting, so you can definitely just skip this one and you won't feel like you're missing out on anything. So those are the chapters that you probably just want to skip. These are the chapters that you definitely need to have on lockdown. These are going to be the fundamental pieces of any distributed systems, and you need to know them well. So chapter 1, reliable, scalable, and maintainable applications, basically knowing what those definitions are and why they're important when it comes to the context of any system. Chapter 5, replication. This is really big part of any distributed system, as is chapter 6, partitioning. You definitely need to know partitioning and replication, as this is going to be a big portion of basically any system design interview, as you're going to have to talk about how you're going to set up your database to store and manage the massive amounts of data you're going to be storing, and replication and partitioning are must-knows. There is no way around it. Chapter 7, transactions, know how they work. In this chapter, you'll also talk about ACID versus base, basically going into, I guess, SQL databases versus NoSQL databases, and you're going to need to know about both of them, the trade-offs of using one versus the other, the situations in which you want to have an ACID compliant system, and other times where you're fine with a base system. So those definitions will be given to you in the transactions chapter. Definitely know it. And then chapter 8, we'll go through the trouble of distributed systems. This is going to be talking about some of the trade-offs you're going to experience, all the problems that can go wrong with distributed systems. And this is definitely something to be aware of, because obviously you're going to want to make your system as resilient to issues as possible. So don't skip over this chapter, because it's going to outline a lot of the problems that can arise with distributed systems, and you're going to need to know how to solve them to alleviate bottlenecks, single points of failure, that sort of thing. So definitely do not skip this chapter. Okay, so now let's get into the online course, and let's not beat around the bush here. The most popular one is the Grokking the Systems Design Interview course, which is available, I believe, on Coursera, or I think it's actually Educative, whatever the website is. Just look up Grokking the System Design Interview. It's going to be the first result. It's the most popular one. So this is, like I said, one of the most popular online courses for helping you prepare for system design interviews. And this online course is split into 2 parts. The first part is going to be your system design basic glossary, which is just brief descriptions of each of the main topics you need to know for a system design interview, basically what the system design series is trying to do on this channel, although I think I go into a little bit more detail than some of the articles here. And the second portion is going to be system design problems. These are going to be the answers to some of the most commonly asked system design interview questions. These are things such as design Instagram, design YouTube, design Dropbox, design Uber's backend, yada, yada, yada. There's a total of 15 questions laid out and answered for you. So that is what you're going to be getting with this course. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of Grokking. The pros are that you get all of the answers to pretty much the most popular interview questions in one place. This is basically the LEET code for systems design. So if you think about preparing for coding interviews without LEET code, you'd be so lost. And these days, basically, you need Grokking as well, because I guess you just want those answers laid out for you. It's like I said, it's very likely your interview is going to be one of these questions or some slight variation of them. And, that's why it's useful to have. And also, it's really well organized and explained quite simply. It's easy for beginners to pick up and reread multiple times. The cons, the first is that it's going to come with a $71 price tag, and you're only going to get access to the course for 1 year, and then you have to repurchase. I have found that if you go to the URLs after your 1 year, there's like some really sketchy checks on the front end that sometimes they'll let you like re-access the content, sometimes they won't let you access it. I think someone messed up the code there to actually check whether or not your time is expired. So sometimes you get access, sometimes you don't. It's a bit weird, but just do know that after your 1 year passes, theoretically you should not have access to the course anymore. So I guess print out the pages or download them as PDFs if you want to keep them forever. But just do know that you don't get it forever. So the second con is that the explanations are quite simple, but not really technically deep. Some things can be only explained at a surface level, and that's one of the criticisms that a lot of people have with Grokking, is that it kind of just gives you very cookie cutter basic answers, and if your interviewer presses you on explaining them a bit deeper, if all you know is Grokking, then you're going to be found out very quickly that you basically just read the book and you don't actually know what you're doing. So you don't want to just rely on Grokking. You do want to have those other resources, like I mentioned in the beginning. You don't want to put all of your eggs into one basket and hope it's going to work out that way. For some of you it might, but you don't want to get caught out and miss out on your dream job just because you memorized one resource and you didn't actually learn the topics. All right, moving on. I guess before we go, let's just say, is Grokking worth it? Yes, it's $71. You get access for a year. There are ways to save the content if you want it for longer than a year. Basically, just print out the PDF, print out the pages as PDFs. You'll have them saved to your computer forever, or just literally print them out on paper, and you'll have that content forever, assuming you don't lose the pieces of paper you printed it on. So, for $71, the amount of value you get where everything is consolidated into one place, it's definitely worth it. I would definitely do it. I mean, if you think about how much money you'll be getting paid from your FAANG job, $71 is a drop in the bucket. So yeah. And you could even split it with a friend if you guys want to access the account through the same thing. So you could take it down to $35.50 if you find at least one friend to split it with, and even more if you have more. So, and I'm sure it's on the internet for free. Obviously, I don't condone you not paying for these things, but if you find it for free, then good for you. I ended up just paying because I couldn't be bothered to search the depths of Google. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling about this. The next online resource that might be helpful for you are going to be some blogs. The first of which is called highscalability.com, and this is an online blog dedicated to articles and stories of how companies and users have scaled their online services to massive user bases. It's completely free to read, although some of the information is quite old, so there might be newer, better technology that's available, right? Some of the articles are from like early 2000s, 2005, 2007. So obviously things have changed since then. So just take some of the information with a grain of salt if you look at the published date and it's, 15 years ago. So the second resource here is just going to be company engineering blogs. Most big tech companies are going to have an engineering blog where they, again, make posts about how they've solved their scalability challenge. And this can give you ideas of which technologies are useful for scaling your application. I'll link some of the popular ones in the description, but Google has a blog, Facebook has a blog, Twitter has a blog. I think who else has one? Netflix has a blog. There's tons of big companies which basically talk about their scaling challenges and what technologies and approaches they used. So definitely use those. So the last resource, and probably the best one, is going to be YouTube University, aka just YouTube. There's so much free content out there that you're really missing out if you're not, using YouTube to help you prepare. So here are some of my favorite channels. Let's just, I may have skipped a slide here. So, right, there's so much content on YouTube, which is going to teach you basically everything you need to know. Not only how to learn to code, but how to get a job at a big tech company, and then how to even go on to be successful as a software engineer. And I guess let's now actually go into the YouTube channels, which I would recommend for system design related content. The first of which is going to be Tushar Roy's YouTube channel. He goes into great depth on a few example questions where he'll basically take you through the question. I think a really good one was designing WhatsApp. He'll basically take you through the question from beginning to end and basically giving his solution to how he would design WhatsApp, walking you through the requirement gathering, estimation, calculations, to actually designing the components and talking about how everything is going to link together. His YouTube channel is definitely one to look out for, and it's not just system design stuff. He does have a lot of leak code questions as well. He does do a lot of dynamic programming, so obviously you guys know I don't do dynamic programming because I hate it, but you can go to Tushar's channel and actually watch the dynamic programming solutions, so you get a lot of bang for your buck. Do be aware that he doesn't actually post videos anymore. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. He put his name and face out there, so I'm guessing his next employer said, hey, I don't want you making YouTube videos. That's part of the reason why I have chosen to stay anonymous, because once I put my name and face out there, it's over. I'll probably get fired or prevented from making these videos, and that's not something I want to do, so obviously we'll remain anonymous until then. So Tushar Roy, definitely one to look out for. Another YouTube channel is the System Design Interview channel. It's literally called that, System Design Interview. It is run by Mikhail, who I believe is a very senior engineer at, I think it was Amazon at the time he was making these videos. Again, the channel has about 3 or 4 videos which are very in-depth and they're very good. You can tell that Mikhail is a very talented engineer and knows a lot about designing scalable systems. But I think, like Tushar, he put his name and face out there, so his employer basically said, stop making these videos, and he has not uploaded in a very long time. So unfortunately, the channel does not have that much content, but the content that is there is really good, really well explained, and it's in high levels of detail. So definitely one to look out for when you're studying. So another channel is Tech Dummies, Narendra L. He has a lot of these videos where basically he's solving the questions from Grokking. So essentially he's just taking the same questions and giving his solution to it, kind of drawing them out on a whiteboard as you would in a real interview. And he also has a series where he breaks down basically the key components of any system. So definitely one to look out for. Always having more sources you can pull from is good. Everyone's going to have different ideas on how they would design a system. Obviously, everyone has a different knowledge and experience, and they all bring that to their own channel and their own content when they make these videos. So just knowing about these channels is definitely useful, and Tech Dummies is yet another channel to know. And the last one I would recommend is Gurav Sen. Like the previous channels, he has a lot of system design content in terms of like the basic fundamentals, and also these design end-to-end videos where he'll basically just design the system from beginning to end and talking about all the components and how they tie together as you would in a real interview. And he also has other non-system design content out there. So if you want to watch coding, or not coding, but just software engineer related content, then this is definitely a channel to watch out for. So those are my 4 recommendations of channels. I will link all of them in the description below, and you can make use of them as you see fit. So thank you for watching. Hopefully this list of resources helps you a bit in your path to learning system design. There's so many resources out there that it's impossible to list them all. These were just my personal favorites. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. The engagement really helps the channel grow. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.